Everybody, it's Thomas. We're back. It's Blood Bowl League of Blood Bowl Season 4 time. We're going to talk about what's going to happen this season. Some slight changes have occurred. We'll get into those as we get into the season. Right now, we're going to start with talking about teams, coaches, all that fun stuff. This season, I am playing Corn. I wasn't originally planning to play Corn, but I decided to anyway. And I'm kind of happy with it after I played around with the team some more. Corn is a team that, or Corn Daemons, I guess they technically are, is not a team that is recognized officially by most Blood Bowl players that play on like tabletop or other platforms that aren't cyanides. But they are weird. They have a lot of frenzy. If you're watching this video, you probably know about them. If you don't, you're probably in the league, and therefore you're going to learn about them. But basically, it's all about the frenzy, except for the Bloodletter Daemons that don't have frenzy. They're kind of just average stats across the board. They're a bashy team on paper, but really need to get some skills before they happen. So they're kind of like a weird Chaos Amazon hybrid. I think I read one person calling them, which I think is pretty apt. They do have a really good big guy, which I'm not running right now, which we'll talk about in just a second here. And yeah, so basically, this is a goal to push me back towards what I like doing, which is playing a more hitty team. It's not the super hard KG defensive hitting team that I like to play, but it's pretty close in that it's really dynamic. It's really about positional control, and it's a lot of fun in terms of that. So my theme is Bob's Neighbors. It's a Bob's Burgers reference to the recurring title gag where the store next door will be different stores, so they're just store names. Because yeah. So there we go. So I'm doing a roster without the big guy. The reason for that is the big guy costs 180, which is a lot. There's also not a good way to include the Bloodthirster, which is the big guy, and include 3 rerolls. It's just not possible. And I feel like this team really needs the 3 rerolls, and I mean, I could get away with probably 2. I think I could make it through the season without it, but the season's going to be a little bit longer, which we'll get into more when we talk about the whole season preview, not just the team preview. But I wanted to start with 3 rerolls because they're going to get expensive, and 3 rerolls will help me win enough that I can afford the Bloodthirster ASAP. So I went with the most number of demons possible with 3 rerolls, which is 5. I get 2 of these Corn Heralds, which are great. They've got Horns, Juggernaut, and Frenzy. I wanted 2 of these pieces because when I was playing around with this team, they really felt like important pieces. The Juggernaut and Frenzy combo means I can muscle around block people, means I can shove stand firm people. Horns means I can blitz people a lot easier. It's just a great combination of hitting skills. So Corn Heralds are very important. I just want them to get up. Bloodletter Daemons are kind of the other piece of that. I've got big plans for these people. They have general agility and strength access, which I didn't really appreciate when Andrew played them in Season 1. I also didn't know what it was doing very much. So I feel like these are the other important pieces. So I want to start with them too because they're really good. And then I started with 6 linemen because I fill it out. And the Pitfighter Cultists actually aren't that bad playing around with them. Like I said, average stats, but they start with Frenzy. So they have a little bit of advantages and a disadvantage. So as long as I'm careful, I can have good times. And who knows, maybe one of them will go crazy. They've got passing access, which is nuts, so I might get a free reroll with Leader, or a cheaper reroll with Leader. One might get a plus agility and become a full-fledged passer. We'll see. This team's got a lot of potential. I feel like that's really good for a long season, because I can't play Nurgle, because that's against league rules, and I didn't want to play Chaos, because someone else had already called them. So I went with Chaos, or Corn Demons. I think it'll be a good time. Pretty much my first purchase is going to be the Apothecary. I'm starting with 10k in the bank, so odds are pretty good if I win that I will be able to afford the Apothecary. That's goal number 1. Once I have the Apothecary, we'll go for the big smashy Bloodthirster, who is huge, and hopefully I can get him early enough where he can get Mighty Blow ASAP. But honestly, that's the only skill he really needs, except for if you roll doubles and get block. So fingers crossed on that part. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about this team. I've played around with them a little bit. They've got a lot of just dynamic ways to move and act, and that's something I really look forward to when I'm playing Blood Bowl. So, there we go. That's my team. Let's take a look at the other teams. Greyduck is playing another hitting team, which I didn't expect after her lack of enjoyment with Orc, shall we say. She's playing Chaos, and is playing a team called the Caterpillar Effect, which is, as you can see, a great combination of big cats and types of pillars. the most direct pun possible, which I think is great, and a play on the chaos theory, which is pretty good. Pretty much bog standard chaos roster. Not a lot to say here. I do really like Tiger Tucson, or Tiger Tuscan, I should say, and Jaguar Doric. Those are great. Ocelot Atlas, also very good. All these are pretty great. But yeah, pretty standard roster. It fills out nicely. It adds up very nicely. And there's a reason for that. Much like me, first purchase probably the Apothecary, and 3 rerolls is a good number to start with. So this is obviously, like I said, the season's going to be a little longer. Chaos is a great team for that. Based on what else is in the league, I think she might have a rough first couple weeks, but we'll see. I mean, this team is obviously very good stat-wise, so that'll definitely help. Yeah, we'll see. I think that, I don't know. I'm not surprised to see Chaos in such a long season, but I'm not sure how well that this team will do, depending on how well everybody else does, obviously. But if things go the way Andrew had last season, she could be in for bad time. She could also go crazy and get a ton of Mighty Blow, Claw, Jerkbags. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, I think this team looks really good. The good theme, good pun. Yeah. Let's keep going here. Grendel Community College is run by Mark. He's playing Norse. He's got a very aggressive Norse lineup, put it that way. Going for a community theme, in part because it let him keep Dean, the Dean, I suppose. But he still keeps a Dean, which is very important for Mark's magical karma. Yeah, Norse is another team I thought about playing before Mark claimed them. For very good reason. They also have a lot of positional power with Frenzy. The Yeti is very, very good. I mean, 5 pieces with Frenzy is awesome. The runners are fantastic. Everyone starting with block is also, obviously, well, except for the huge guys. But everyone else starting with block is very, very appealing. And it makes his team very dangerous. So he's taking a ton of positionals and only taking 2 rerolls. He was making noises but only taking 1 reroll, but has since changed his tone to 2. This team definitely fits Mark's favorite playstyle, which is to hit, smash, run, and grab. The runner will do lots of running. I think he's planning to feed the werewolves lots of SPP, though, which he should do. 2 agility is still capable of moving the ball, just not that well. So hopefully all these guys will get leveled up quickly. He says he's going full murder mode, which I think you kind of have to with the Norse team. Yeah, you give the Norse werewolves block, and you give a couple of them guard. But give the Berserkers Mighty Blow. Sure, why not? Removal is always good. Didn't mean to open him up. Piling on all of these works well with jump up as well. Come on, Blood Bowl. There you go. Yeah, first purchase for pretty much everybody's going to be the Apothecary, I think. But this team especially is going to need the Apothecary. All the 7 armor value is going to be an issue in a league that's punchy. That said, I was thinking about this. With Chaos and with my Bloodthirst around, the 7 armor value isn't that big of a deal, because with all the claw that's going to be floating around the league, well, all the claw. With one team with a lot of claw, and with the other big bashy team having a big claw piece, the 7 armor value isn't that big of a deal. That said, there's probably also going to be a fair amount of Mighty Blow, so we'll see how well this works out for Mark. I like Norse because, I've talked about this kind of off and on, but I really like that as a team, they get out of bad situations differently than a lot of teams do. Elf, like I talked about last season, you get out of bad positions by scoring. Like, I put myself in terrible hitting position for your turn, but I'm going to score a touchdown, so we just reset. It doesn't matter. Norse get around that by just punching you into the dirt, which is definitely something Mark wanted to do last season and didn't get a good enough chance to do it. So this season, he's going to go all out on it. I think that's fun. I think it's a good way to play. A lot of other teams, like, you know, with Dwarf, you just stand there and hit until you're clear, basically. Norse hits you and you stay down, and that's how they protect themselves, which I think is good. So yeah, 2 rerolls I think is going to be the potential downfall of this team. That said, because you have block on so many pieces, you don't actually end up rolling much for beyond pickups, so we'll see how well behaved his agility is. If it behaves very nicely, then he'll be fine. If not, he'll be very, very sad. Either way, I'm excited to see Mark tear it up with his team. Of having a full murder team is something the league's not really had, and someone focusing directly on that is going to be great. Let's take a look at some of their teams here. Andrew took the other team I was really considering, which was Chaos Dwarf. And Chaos Dwarf, and I mentioned a fair amount of claw, because Chaos Dwarf can get claw on all the blockers and the Minotaur on doubles roll. Andrew went with what I would also consider the pretty standard roll of 2 Bull Centaurs, the best players on the team, and then 5 blockers, and then fill it out with Hobgoblins. 3 rerolls is pretty happy for a team that has no real good ball handling skills. You want to get a Hobgoblin with sure hands, I think, and then Bull Centaurs can get handed the ball or whatever. Either way, Bull Centaurs are going to need to hit, and they're going to need to use rerolls. So 3 is a happy number. I know a lot of people think you should be ball carrying with Bull Centaurs and get sure hands on them. I don't like that, because it's just such a waste of a player. The Bull Centaurs can move the ball okay already with 2 agility and a reroll. Whereas if you give a Hobgoblin sure hands, he can hold on to the ball, run around with it. It's fine. I don't know. I think that's the safer way to run the team. We'll see what Andrew decides to do. The Bull Centaurs can certainly move the ball a lot. They're very fast, and I think certainly we'll see lots of holes cleared and preserved by Chaos Dwarf blockers and Bull Centaurs running the ball around. Apothecary, first purchase, and after that, save up for Dwarf blocker number 6, and then get the Minotaur. Really nice build-up. We're going to see a lot of guard on this team, though. Chaos Dwarf blockers are really good because they're supported by Bull Centaurs. I mean, that's kind of the thing that I think is really interesting about Chaos Dwarf, and one of the things I like about this team a lot, because Dwarf is one of my least favorite teams. I hate playing Dwarf, just because I think they're so boring. And these are the linemen for the Dwarf team, but they're kind of like key players for the Chaos Dwarf team. And the reason why they can become key players instead of just linemen is they become more of a pivot point. Hobgoblins have 6 move allowance, so you can move them around to support where you need them to. Bull Centaurs are effectively 9 movement allowance with the sprint sure feet combo, which is awesome. They can run around and smash things while the blockers tie up the middle. And ownership of the middle, I think, is going to be huge this season with all the frenzy teams. My team, Mark's team, are going to force people to really try to control the center as much as possible. It's also going to put a premium on sidestep, which we'll see how many people take off, because there's a lot of strength teams with no real agility access available to them. So what are we looking at for this team? Like I said, I think Andrew will do very well with this team. This fits right into his playstyle, which is very similar to mine, of get dudes in front and hit. And Chaos Dwarf are great. It starts with block and tackle. You can't argue against that combo. It's just so fun. I'm excited to see how this team goes. They can easily become full-on murder machines, just like Norse. They just do it in a slightly different way. So it should be interesting to see what happens there. Let's take a look at Season 3's winner, Chris. He's playing Vampire. He went with the Discworld theme, which I'm a huge fan of. Yeah, so good. God, I love this so much. Chris is going for a very long-term build. This is probably my favorite build, actually, for Vampires. I think it's the most fun. I like taking Fan Factor early on. I just do. And Vampires are really good, but they need lots of thralls and they need lots of rerolls. This way you get 5 rerolls, 2 Vampires, and a whole bunch of thralls, and a bunch of Fan Factor. So if everything goes okay for Chris, which it's Chris, things will probably go just fine. He'll have a ton of money coming in, thanks to the Fan Factor, to fill out these Vampires after he gets an Apothecary, obviously. Apothecary is almost guaranteed week 1 with this amount of Fan Factor too, because he'll probably get at least 1 fame, and if he wins, it's almost all huge lock. Even if he ties or loses, he just has to roll a 4, which isn't that hard. So yeah, Vampire adds a lot to this league and makes it different. They play weird. They make it so caging is not really that effective a tactic. Caging in general, I think, is not going to be very good this season. You've got me with Juggernaut and Frenzied and Horns, which will just rip cages open. Mark's got enough Frenzy and will have enough block that he can just smash cages to bits as well. Chaos Dwarf, not as much, but they can really slow down a cage just because of how good the Dwarf blockers are and how good the Bull Centers are at attacking the ball. So, we'll see. But yeah, Vampires definitely make caging, not something you can do. Hypnotic Gaze just removes a corner, send another Vampire in to kick the ball free, or Thrall even to kick the ball free, and you're totally fine. We'll see. I think this is a really good team for Chris. Chris loves his weird, kind of techie, weird, janky teams, and Vampires is the definition of a weird, janky team. And they'll do really well with the long season we're planning here. Fill out with 5 to 6 Vampires, like the Bloodletters, they have general agility and strength, but these guys are 4/4, which is pretty nice. So we'll see. How unlucky Chris's Bloodlust rolls are will be kind of the main factor here. How quickly people kind of start playing to eliminating thralls will be the other thing. Thralls are obviously the weak part of the team, but they're also the most important part of the team. Yeah, vampires do a lot of the heavy lifting, but without thralls, the vampires don't do much of anything at all. So we'll see what happens. The one thing I think that's funny about vampires is Chris's godly luck on skill ups won't matter as much unless he gets stats like strength and agility. 5 agility vampires would be great. I honestly would look for that more than a 5 strength vampire. 5 strength vampire, God, would be great. But 5 agility really opens a lot for a vampire. We'll see what Chris decides to do with his team. He's already promised that I will be wildly confused by his skill choices. I'm excited because he can choose pretty much anything on normal rolls with vampires. So we'll see what we get there. But yeah, I think this is a really good team to play. Someone was talking about playing this last season, and I'm a little sad they didn't. But this season is definitely very good. There's lots of fast mobile teams already that we've seen. And hey, sneak preview, a lot of the other teams are fast and mobile as well. And vampires play a really nice way into that. They are a hitting team, but they hit in a weird way. They screen, they force a change in the way your opponent plays. I'm excited to have this team in the league. I'll probably hate playing against them because Chris gets all the luck against me, but we'll see what happens. Then we have another Skaven team. Jessup, our second place finisher from last season, is playing Skaven shenanigans, which is, pretty fantastic. He's going for a pretty similar lineup to what Greydek played in Season 2. Thrower, 2 Gutter Runners, 2 Storm Vermins. Yeah, I think this is good. Arguments can be made for cutting the throw, but I think the thrower plays an important part. And if you're going to play a throwing game, which Jessup said he wanted to do, you definitely want to have the thrower skilled up as well. Gutter runners need survivability skills because they're already so fast and so good at moving the ball around. So you need a throwing platform on top of that. Gutter runners don't have access to throwing skills anyway, or passing skills, I should say. I think it's a little risky not to run on the Apothecary given how punchy this league is going to be, or start with one, but gets to take the Rat Ogre in compensation for that. So maybe it'll work out okay. The Rat Ogre, obviously, a very good player and does a lot of damage. Lots of wild animal this season. The Bloodthirster, the Yeti, and the Rat Ogre all have wild animal. And then the Minotaur on Chaos Dwarf as well. So 4 teams with, or 5 teams, because Chaos has with wild animal traits. So that should be fun for nobody. Lots of punching, like I said. I think Skaven will also do pretty well because it's Skaven, but they are going to have a harder time, I think, than Chris did, assuming Jessup doesn't get extremely lucky. Obviously, that could happen. I don't want to say it won't. But this is a strong lineup, a fair amount of meat to absorb the hits. Starts with all the key pieces, and 2 Gutter Runners is enough to do annoying Gutter Runner things. So we'll see what happens. It's similar to what Jessup was playing before with fast mobility with the Lizards, but it's not quite, or this column, that's the one with move allowance, but it's not quite the same game whatsoever. You can't quite get mixed in as much. Even with Chris doing that, you can't get stuck in quite as aggressively as you can with Lizards. Nobody can. We'll see how it goes. Storm Vermin's obviously very important pieces. This team's got a lot of hitting power. I just don't know how good it's going to be against everything else. We'll see what happens, though. I've been totally surprised by how Skaven teams do in this league, so we'll see. Our 3rd season with Skaven. Hopefully they don't run away with everything again. We'll see. But it's good to have. I'm really glad we have another fast-scoring team in the league. It keeps the rest of the league honest. We can't just all go ham on punching people. Next up, we've got Zach here, who's a new player. He's replacing Sid this season with Real Second Life, Shriner EQ. I'm not going to lie, I don't understand his team theme, which we'll talk about in just a second here. He's playing Undead, which I think is a fantastic team. We haven't seen since Season 1. I like all these names. Like, there's a good mixture of horror movies and weird things. I don't know. Very confusing. So take a look at this team. Undead is kind of nice, especially for someone who's starting out, because you don't have to worry about an apothecary whatsoever. An Undead is great because you start with 2 super smashy dudes, some solid block, some good mobility with some ghouls, and 3 rolls. I really like that he took a skeleton here. Undead, when you proc the Necromancer, I think always gives you skeletons, but I really like the skeleton pick because the skeleton is a great fouling piece, and fouling is going to be very important in this season for a lot of teams. We can't move; not a lot of us can move the ball. It's going to be pretty essential that you step on things, and gutter runners are very annoying. You're going to need to step on them. It's just going to have to happen, and that's true for pretty much everybody. Berserkers on Mark's team, vampires on Chris's team. Pick your annoying player on Andrew's team, although they're going to be pretty hard to take out because they're dwarves. Hobgoblins can be stepped on pretty easily. There's a lot of good targets for stepping on. So I really like that he took a skeleton for just a little bit of extra mobility, a little bit extra fouling. Yeah, I really like the Undead team. It's very fast, very mobile. I'm a little surprised he didn't upgrade one of his zombies to a ghoul. There are certainly arguments for not doing that right away. In part, you want to have a little bit of a shield to protect your ghouls initially before they get skills. I don't know. I think starting with 3 ghouls is a you might as well sort of prospect, but I definitely understand the argument for starting with extra zombies. You can put them on the line to absorb the hits when you receive. I think that'll be just fine. I think this is probably the scariest team potentially right out of the box. Yes, Castorf and Norse have more blocking power in terms of having more block, but mummies are very, very good. They start with Mighty Blow. They just get scarier. They're better than Tomb Guardians, except they have 3 movement instead of 4, but they don't have decay. I don't see this as a problem whatsoever. These guys are very, very scary. This team is very, very good, and I'm very scared of them for the first couple weeks anyway. After that, when other people start getting skills, depending on how quick the development are and how good Zach is at spreading his SPP around, that'll really dictate everything. The ghouls and the whites will probably end up being SPP hogs, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I'm very interested to see how this team does. We haven't had an undead team since Season 1, and I think it's something that the league definitely could use. They're a fantastic team. They hit hard. I like a good necromancer. Yeah, so good luck to Zach. The team's solid, except for maybe the ghoul, which, again, arguments for and against are fine. Yeah, so far so good. I also want to say, so far so good. No support staff. Thumbs up, everybody. Way to not take any. That is good. Orville, with his clever elven team name. I really like this. He took some demon names for his positionals, and then just generic jokes about elves and naming and he-who's to fit with the demon theme. I'm perfectly happy with this. Lots of green this season, I think. Different shades of green, probably, but whatever. So this is not my chosen Dark Elf roster, but it is certainly very effective. 2 runners, a Witch Elf. Gives you lots of mobility. The Blitzers are obviously very good. The main concern is you're starting with more lower armor valued pieces, which is fine. I just question whether it would be better to start with another Blitzer instead. I don't know. I really like the 4 Blitzer 1 runner build more. I think it offers more to the team starting out in terms of longer term development. That said, you can start off with your fun pieces. It'll be fine. This is a pretty good season for Dark Elf. I'm really glad this team is in here as well, because much like Skaven, they'll keep the rest of the league honest. Dark Elf usually play, the smashy, hitty agility thing very, very well. They're not as throwy as the other elf teams, but they can still move the ball very effectively because, 4 agility everywhere. Could be a tough time for them, though. Guard is going to be everywhere in this league, and elves lack normal strength access. So that could be a problem for them. We'll see what happens, though. This team could certainly be a breakout success, and Orville loves to dodge, so it should be fine. It's a good season for them, too, because all the positionals on this team are good. Witch Elves help balance out the frenzy threat from other teams, and Witch Elves are fantastic players in themselves. Blitzers, you can have four agility blitzers with block. That's amazing. Dump off, one of the best skills in the game to start with. This team will be good. Assassins also have a very good place in the league. They can stab my bloodletter daemons really easily. There's a lot of fouling people around, which this team probably won't run a fouling piece just because of how expensive everybody is. But just like fouling is very effective in this league because there's a lot of good fouling targets. Assassins will do well too. I don't know if you buy more than 1 necessarily. 2 isn't a bad idea. They make great receivers, I think, scoring threats when you're on offense. We'll see. This is a team to watch. Chris won season 1 with them, and we didn't know what we were doing. So we'll see. Orville definitely knows more than Chris did in season 1, and we've got a lot longer to develop this team. So we'll see what happens. This team could get very, very scary. We've had a lot of really scary teams this season. So like I said, very bashy. Very fast, though, too. This is really what I was hoping for would happen this season when people started telling me what they're thinking about. The slowest teams are Chaos Dwarves and Chaos, but even then they play a pretty dynamic game. Because Chaos has 3 agility everywhere, they can dodge around a lot. Chaos Dwarves, because they have the Bull Center and the Hobgoblins, are very, very mobile. It's average mobility on the Hobgoblins, and it's super crazy, weird mobility with the Bull Centaurs that's dependent on sure feet, but they're still fast, and that's good. Everyone's sitting around 6 movement allowance for the most part, excluding some of the players on the Dark Elf and the Skaven team and the runners on the Norse team. But even with that, everybody's going to be kind of trying to smash and grab, and watching all that kind of positioning be important, I think is going to be good. Make for some fun games to watch, make for some big play opportunities. Pretty much everybody has the ability to make big plays this season, so I'm excited for that. All the games should be fun to watch, so it should be exciting. Let's talk about the season overview before we get into the calendar. Water. We're going to essentially double what we had last season. We're going to have a double round robin. Everybody plays in one kind of regular, normal season. Then we're going to do the split into groups. 2 groups will be separated out through our magical proprietary selection process. And then we'll do 6 weeks of that, and then playoffs. So 20 games total, 22 possible if you go all the way. So it should be a good season. Everything's really long. We're going to scrape up against spiraling expenses. I know it. I'm pretty excited, though. We haven't had a truly long season. We had 14 weeks in season 2, but that really didn't count, and it wasn't quite long enough. So we're going to do a full, long-ish season. It should be a good time, which is why you see a lot of these Chaos teams, and why I was pretty happy to take Khorne Demons this term. Let's take a look at the calendar. This is just the normal season, the championship portion of the Grand Slam. 14 weeks. It'll be a pretty good time. We're just going to talk about week 1, though. First up, we've got Chaos versus Undead. This is, I think, probably the most imbalanced matchup of the week, and reason for that is Chaos has no skills except for horns. And the one thing that this team really thrives on early on is that they can probably outforce you, at least outforce you in targeted ways. That's not so true against the Undead team. Because the mummies are huge, and there's 2 of them, and they have Mighty Blow, there's a lot that can be done to clear it. It's one of those, they have enough skills where they can be really annoying and enough fodder where they can get in your way. This is going to be a really messy matchup. I think a lot of it's going to come down to Greyduck's greater experience at this point versus Zach being brand new. It's still a very difficult matchup for Chaos. I am going to say a tie for how I think this matchup's going to go. I think Greyduck's greater experience will help out. But there's a lot to be said for hardcore mummies smashing your face. We've got the block on block. I think everyone is happy to see this matchup. Mark versus Andrew here. This game is going to be a giant mess. Lots of block everywhere. Mark actually has higher amounts of force with a combination of Dauntless, the Werewolves, and the Yeti. Mark will have more force. And Claw will be potentially a big factor. Considering how many 9 armor valued idiots the Chaos Dwarf team will be fielding. We'll see. This is, again, everyone else is happy to not be going up against this wall of block here. I'm going to give a slight edge to Andrew. The reason for that is the primary thing both these teams thrive on is block everywhere. And without block dominance for either team, although Mark technically has slightly more block as well. Without block dominance, though, things can go south for both teams very quickly because you just relying on normal hits. And I think the Dwarf team being all 9, except for the Hobgoblins, which can be safely screened behind the wall of metal, 9 armor value thick skull means that Andrew is going to be able to stand up to the fight more long term. We'll see. Mark has more positioning control with Frenzy and is a faster team overall. I just think the 7 armor value is going to be a problem here. Hopefully, Mark doesn't lose a bunch of players to serious injuries. We'll see, though. I'm going to give this to Andrew. I think he can do it. I think he's got enough tech and enough standing that I think he'll just win the hitting war. Andrew also is much happier to commit to a punching war than Mark is. So I think Castor for this one. Let's take a look at this next matchup here. Agility on agility. We've got a lot of almost mirror matches this week. Chris versus Orville. I honestly have no idea how this is going to go. Vampires don't start with anything, but they do have 4/4. Dark Elves have a lot of 4 agility, but it's pretty hard to protect the ball. And Chris is very good at getting extremely lucky. We'll see how this goes. Orville likes this team a lot, and 4 agility early on especially gives you a lot of free roaming power. I think the Blitzers and the Witch Elf are going to be key here, and how well Orville uses Dump Off will also be a factor. I think Dark Elf have the advantage here. Chris might win some good kickoff events with all the fan factor, though, so that'd be one thing to watch. And reroll management is going to be very important. Chris, with his 5 rerolls, can just spit rerolls out at any result he's not that happy with. Maybe you want to save it for Bloodlust, but for the most part, as long you can avoid Bloodlust rerolls by just moving your thralls around, so we'll see. I think Chris definitely has a slight edge here. We'll see what Orville tries to do. Again, it's going to come down to how well he manages things like Frenzy and Dump Off. I think Orville's team has the advantage. So Dark Elf, just starting with more skills and better ball handling stats, will allow us a greater number of touchdowns. I think there'll be a close game, but I think Orville can win this game. So we'll call for Dark Elf, sure. And then I'm going up against Skaven. I'm pretty nervous about this. Because I'm not playing with the Bloodthirster. So that means the Rat Ogre is going to give me some trouble. And I have no skills. I can blitz extremely well. That's true. I can hit you a lot, and I'm going to hit a lot, but I'm going up against a lot of mess. I basically have to rely on the Storm Vermins not being annoying, and then I can break some armor. I don't have a great way of dealing with the gutter runners beyond surfing them, so that's kind of, and stepping on them, but even then I don't know if I want to step on them, unless I'm ahead. I think I can, I know I can win this game. I just don't think I'm going to. I think the gutter runners and the thrower present too much of a threat to me at all times that I don't think I can win this game. I will probably make it close, because for some reason I can defend extremely well. And I'm definitely going to surf some people. I will surf somebody from the middle of the field if I have to, but someone's getting surfed. I don't know. I definitely can win the game, but I think just I'm slow enough that I think he can get away from me. And I don't have the Bloodthirster to deal with the Rat Ogre. We'll see. I mean, I'm not looking forward to this game. I don't think either of us are, honestly. It'll be a rough game. I basically have to hope I can get a bunch of injuries, which is my goal anyway, and hope I can deal with these idiots. I'll probably just ignore the Rat Ogre, honestly. I'll park a cultist in front of him and then move around with everybody else. Do like a Juggernaut Blitz to shove him aside and then keep going. We'll see. But I don't think I'm going to win. I think Skaven will win. I think I'll try to make it close as I can, but I think Skaven will pull that one out. So, tie game. I think Andrew will win, I think Orville will win, and I think Jess will win. So yeah, just a straight tie, and then on the right-hand side here. Hall of Fame we won't really talk about for a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is a pretty good season. We're all going to be playing similar teams, but different teams. There's enough variety, too, to keep us all relatively diverse in skill choices. It's not going to be like Season 2 where you just have to get tackle after you get block, or you have to get tackle almost more than block sometimes. Or even last season where everyone's kind of doing their own weird thing. teams were so different that you just kind of had to ignore what everyone was doing, essentially. You paid attention a little bit, but trying to tailor your strategy to anyone in particular wasn't going to get you very far because there was such a variety of types of teams in the league. So yeah, we'll see what happens. All these teams have very flexible developments in terms of what they're going to do, except for Mark, who's going full murder. But yeah, lots of options for skill choices, lots of potential possibilities for development. Obviously, Chaos is pretty much a blank space. You can put anything in. We'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to it, though. It should be a good season. And yeah, should be great. So I'll be playing Just Up next week, and I'll bring you that game. I guess the one other thing I wanted to mention is that what Mark and I are going to try to do is any game that isn't recorded and uploaded to YouTube, we're going to try to cast together, because people seem to like our finals casts. So we're going to cast whatever matches don't get recorded, if we can get replays from people, and then we'll have content for all week. So it'll be great. Cool. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next week.